Hey everyone, it's Joan here, and today's video is going to be about my everyday film camera. Most of the time, usually, surprisingly, when I go out, people who I come across will be like, Joan, you're a photographer, you should always have a film camera on you, don't you? And it's like, honestly, before I would say no, and then I would have this imposter syndrome because I felt bad that I don't carry a camera around, whether it's digital or film, and because I would have my phone with me, which also has a camera, but some people don't consider it legit. It came to my mind where I started thinking about maybe I should bring a camera along. How would that feel? What happened if I didn't have a phone and I just photographed with an actual camera? My everyday camera was my Canon Ql17. You might have seen this in previous videos. It's a rangefinder. This was my introduction to rangefinder cameras, which you pretty much really have to know the distance in order to focus, even though there's like something in the viewfinder that you see that aligns that will confirm focus. This camera is like a hit or miss for me because sometimes I'll have the shots that I really want and envision, and then sometimes I'll look at the negatives after developing and I'll be like, what did I photograph with this? And so the nice thing about it is it's just super silent. It's literally feels like a toy, sounds like nothing. People don't even notice that you're shooting with it, so it's a great street camera. But it's like still a bit heavy to just carry around in my tote bag or my book bag, and so I just prefer not to carry it around. And then what's really cool though is like when I get into the cameras that I use, I started investing, researching, learning more about what other potential things I can do with it. And so I got a lens head for it, and I also got a yellow filter, so when I shoot black and white, it's actually more contrast, and that's something I prefer in my photos. So this is why my Canon Ql17 looks like this, and it's souped up like that. But honestly, I haven't shot with this in a while because this is now not my everyday camera, because like I said, it's a bit heavy for me to bring every day, and also it's just, yeah, just not as compact as I want it to be. And so this is why I transitioned to now my next camera that I'm going to talk about, which is, you see context, but don't get it twisted. People always think it's the T2. It is not, it's the TVS. The difference, it has this manual zoom, pretty much kind of like the Ql17, and this is a point and shoot camera. This is a rangefinder. They look, you know, kind of the same built, but they're not. If you know anything about compact point and shoot cameras, the whole point of it is that you can just turn it on, you know, point and literally shoot and take your photo. But with this, it's also like hit or miss, because using this camera, as much as it's not as, you know, thick, looks similar, but the lens, obviously it's more bigger here compared to the TVS. I just felt that with this camera, I don't know, my focus, I swear, is not my eye vision. My vision is not that bad, but sometimes I still miss focus, and it's just the distance and the range, and I'm not still used to that. And so I get kind of annoyed because I'll think I took an epic shot and then it's like not in focus. And then especially if it's a portrait of somebody and I want to give the photo back and it's only one shot of them, and it's just not, it's not good. I also have a filter. It's so discreet, but I have a filter on the lens here that literally it didn't originally come with. I bought that as an extra accessory, so also the lens doesn't get scratched. And the trick with the TVS, if you're interested, I know a lot of people actually bought this in the past month or year, and so for me, I've never shot with a T2 or G1, any of the Context series, but with this camera, I also like the fact that you could switch it to a panoramic photo, negative, whatever the case you want to call it. And if you're into that, if you can't afford the X-Pan yet, pretty cool for taking panoramic photos. But for me, to make sure that it's in focus, what I usually do, whether it's daylight or at night, I would always shoot this with a flash and make sure that the flash button is on, and then I have it on +1 just to make sure the exposure is like higher, and then I have it set on AF for autofocus, and then usually my f-stop is at 5.6, which is like the only green here. The rest are like in black, the f-stops. So like I said, this camera has just been experimental for me. This is what I use for my everyday. I carry it around all the time. I've captured a lot of my friends, my family, especially when we go eat somewhere. It got to the point where I ended up creating an Instagram because I just had so many, you know, cute photos of my friends and family eating different types of foods, which now makes me realize how much food I eat or how many restaurants I go to, which is not a bad thing. Total foodie, I'll admit it. And I don't want to create a food blog. I've been told and asked to do that before. I just like to just keep it all consolidated on Instagram, so there's that. But yeah, with this camera, it's a hit or miss with the focus. And what else can I say? Another thing that I don't like about the TVS is that at night, my night shots have not been amazing. They're always super low exposure, as if it's like some trippy light exposure painting that's happening. And I know down in the comments you're gonna probably like leave all these different tips and advice for how I can improve with using this and not to give up on this. But you know, I caved in to getting this camera because my friends literally advised and said, you know, this was really a good point and shoot camera for the price as well. And it's a Contax and it has a Carl Zeiss lens. Like I said, I'm like on the point of retiring this and selling this camera just because I just feel like I haven't found my perfect everyday camera yet. Honestly, out of all the film cameras I've ever used, just not regarding medium format or large format, when I'm talking about 35mm, I think my best bet has always been with my EOS 1V. There should be a lens attached, but right now there's none. But usually it would be an EF lens. But I really enjoy SLR cameras. I prefer having control. I like to, you know, focus manually with the lens. I can change the lens. I'm guaranteed with 36 exposures or 24 that all of my shots will be in focus, right exposure, the way how I see it and envision it. If I really want to take 35mm shots, this is my go-to. I just wish it wasn't so bulky or heavy. I used to bring this camera like everywhere. Honestly, when I first met Chris B, I had this camera at a Beers and Camera event, but it's just too heavy. But if I had to choose out of amongst all the 35mm cameras, this is the one I would recommend as my everyday camera. So, but going back, this Contax TVS is my everyday camera currently until I sell it and then move on and figure out what will be my next everyday camera. So I'm gonna show you guys some photos I took with the Contax TVS. Maybe you guys have a good recommendation on what my next everyday film camera should be. All I look for is something small, compact, will take epic, amazing photos that I can have more control with using as well, and has just more options too, maybe. I'm not opposed to if it should be a point and shoot, a rangefinder, what have you. I just honestly want it to be light, portable, and just something that has a lot of options for me to manipulate into taking photos. That is all I'm looking for. If you have any recommendations, please leave a comment down below. I totally appreciate it. Maybe your suggestion will lead up to becoming my next everyday film camera. And I'm also interested in knowing what cameras you guys consider as your everyday film camera, because maybe there's something out there that I don't know, and it would be really nice to see what everyone else says. So thank you again for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Sayonara. It's the end of the video, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't, it will help me in the long run. Okay, bye.